That snaps for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
Brandon,
We can't ask Rashad questions.
Gonna get into this Diddy thing, man, for today. Is this today? Okay, this is today. All right, here we go. Day 25, Diddy trial. Let's get into it.
It is day 26 of the United States versus Sean Combs, and the judge.
Day 26. No, it was day 25. She said 26 in the video. Okay, reading this fundamental, Rashad. Let's go.
Judge is not very happy today. We started the day off by the judge really admonishing both the defense and the government over sealed information that was somehow leaked to the press. We don't know exactly what this information is. I have a feeling that it has to do with the second juror. There seemed to be a second juror issue that was not relayed to the press at all. It was discussed in the robing room in private, and I think there was a media outlet that put out an article about this. Now, I don't know for sure that this is the issue. I am just speculating, so hopefully we will find out. But he was not happy, and he said it potentially could be a contempt issue. So we'll see what happens. But this will most likely be brief as well, because we've spent most of the day, or we have spent actually the day so far, on Agent Pendler, who is the special agent for the government. And she finished her direct examination, and we went over, let's see, more travel itinerary for Jules Theodore, who was one of the escorts. This is August of 2009. We saw an LA to NYC flight itinerary, London hotel reservations, and then we saw all of these charges on Diddy's Amex pertaining to this one trip and the flights, etc. And his bill, I didn't mention this yesterday, but they said a lot of his monthly bills, or they showed us his monthly bills, and his monthly bills range from $218,000 to almost $1 million. It was like $989,000, and this is all on one Amex. Then we got to September 2014, where we saw Clayton Howard, aka Dave, that's another escort, his flights and hotel records. And this was a flight from JFK in New York to LA. He stayed at the Four Seasons, and we saw the room reservation, Frank Black, everything that has corroborated what we've seen before. And for this, then there was another trip that they mentioned in July, and this was Jules flying from LA to New York, and we saw that he stayed in a hotel near the Hamptons. It was actually Riverhead, which I was wow, I'm like, Riverhead, which is not quite the Hamptons. Riverhead is kind of near the North Fork, and they put him up at a Hilton Garden Inn. And they made sure, the government made sure to say, okay, Riverhead, that's near where? Long Island. And the Hamptons are where? Long Island. So maybe hinting that he was there for a summer Diddy party. Who knows? And then we saw an invoice from the La Hermitage Hotel, where we saw damages that were charged to Diddy's Amex for the carpet and the drapes, about $500. And okay, I didn't have a chance to ask any other reporters in the room this, but I could have sworn I saw an Intercontinental New York charge for damages for $46,000. Now, I feel like maybe I read this wrong, because nobody seemed fazed by this. So I'm like, did I get this information wrong? I'm gonna have to go back and see, but I swear I saw a $46,000 damage charge, and this was October 2012, and this was the same month that Diddy's Amex, his bill for that month was $944,000 basically. So I will go back and double check on that. But if that is a damage charge, that is insane. So I feel like that can't be right, but I'm throwing it out there just in case you hear it elsewhere. And like I said, I will correct myself later on. Okay. Oh, and then I think the biggest part of the morning was these charts and these graphs pertaining to March 5th, 2016, the entire timeline around the LA Intercontinental Hotel with Cassie and the beating. So it basically went from Cassie communicating with Garen from Cowboys and Angels, getting an escort. This is the day of. She's communicating with this escort named Skylar, And then we go through the morning where she, or you know, the late evening to the early morning, where he's kind of like, do you need me or do you not need me? And then it kind of skips to Cassie getting a crap ton of missed calls from Diddy. And at this point, the missed calls started around 11:28 a.m. And we know that the beating in the hallway took place around 11 a.m. So that kind of makes sense. And then we just saw this timeline. We saw the text messages that ensued from there. And then we saw when Christina Coram got involved. And she also was texting another assistant, Eli Marone, to get this footage. He got involved. Then we saw D-Rock get involved. He was texting between KK, Cassie, and Diddy, all these different texts. And then we saw Carrie Morgan get involved, because we know that Carrie Morgan was at Cassie's home when Cassie got home from the incident. And at one point we saw a text from Cassie to Christina Coram saying something like, can you tell him to stop? This is around 2:30 p.m. that day, because the neighbors are going to call the police. And we had already heard testimony previously about him trying to get into the house with a hammer and the cops being called to her house. And again, just more back and forth where KK begs Cassie to talk to Diddy. She, she sent some texts here and there, but she sent, I don't remember if we saw this one text, but she basically said, I have arguably the biggest night of my career, meaning the Perfect Match premiere. And she said, of my life, and I have a black eye and a fat lip. You are sick for thinking you can do this to me. Please stay away from me. And then later on, I think it was the next morning, the day after, we actually saw a text from Diddy to D-Rock saying, how is she? And I think at this point, Cassie was at D-Rock and his wife April's house. And D-Rock said she's okay, she's eating breakfast, her face don't look bad, she's smiling and laughing, call her. And in between all of this, March 6th is when the calls from Diddy to Eddie Garcia started, the back and forth there. And we went through all of those calls. And then the last call from Sean Combs to Eddie Garcia, kind of closing the loop on this night, was March 25th, 2016, which we know was Easter, because he testified that he got a call from him on Easter. Eddie Garcia, I mean. And then Tenny Garrigo started her cross. And I appreciate Tenny's cross, because she really sounds like a girlfriend. Like you're just talking to one of your girlfriends, but then she kind of like lays it on. So she was talking to the special agent, and she's like, so you've been a special agent for 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. Your job is to go through all of these files, ensure accuracy, even though you did not work on this case. Like you were not a part of this task force, you didn't make any arrests, et cetera. And she said, yeah. Well, Tenny points out a part of one of the charts where it shows Cassie's name and Diddy's name everywhere except for this one box, but it kind of insinuates that this one box does involve Cassie and Diddy. And Tenny points it out that during this time, Cassie, it was December 8th, 2015, Cassie was in South Africa. And there were also text messages between Christina Coram and an assistant, I believe was Eli, where she said, they are gone, like you can go clean up the hotel now. And Tenny was just like, so do you know who was with Mr. Combs at the hotel? Did you try to find out? Did you try to do any other research here to find out who quote unquote they is? Or because Cassie's not in the country. And she just said, no, I just looked at the evidence I was given. I didn't do any other digging. And Tenny was like, oh, and you've been a special agent for 10 years? And she's like, yeah. So there was a lot of back and forth about that. And then Tenny played video clips from some of the same videos that they saw yesterday, which were freak off videos. Like I said, there was some reactions, but she played different clips. And one of the clips was about 5 minutes long. And during this clip, I actually saw one of the younger female jurors take some notes. Nobody looked disturbed or upset today. We could kind of hear part of the video until one of the somebody in court, one of the wow, I'm blanking out. One of the federal guys that are in charge, they're just like, yeah, we can hear it. And then all of a sudden, they turned it down, or everybody adjusted their headphones and we couldn't hear anything anymore. So yeah, there was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there was about seven-ish clips played, but yeah, it did not elicit the same type of reactions at all. Oh, and then after all the videos were played, I did see one female juror make a face like this, like she's kind of thinking. So Tenny will finish her cross later, and then we will get to Brendan Paul. So I will give you an update later on today.
I ain't gonna lie, bruh. It sound like, and it look like Diddy is cooked, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. A lot of people were saying, like, you know what, kind of the early stages of the case, they was like, all right, I've been following the trial and what's been coming out of the trial. This isn't a domestic violence trial. This isn't a so-and-so trial. And it sounds like all the parties were consenting. See, the thing about it is, with something like this, especially today, it's all about soliciting other people for various explicit acts and things of that sort, which is illegal. And then he traveled the folks over different state lines to do it. That's even more illegal. Like, that's crazy. And they have all this footage and stuff like that. And then you say with the Cassie, okay, Cassie was consenting to all of these acts. But I think bringing up the domestic alleged domestic situations, shows that it was a hostile environment for Cassie, and she couldn't really, you know what I mean? Because it was just a hostile environment. I was like, dang, if I say no, is he gonna beat me again? Like, all that stuff. So I don't know. I think all of it is starting to kind of come together, and all the charges that he's facing. And me personally, I think he's cooked. But it's just day 25. I also thought like some other people have been cooked in their trials and they end up beating the cases. So
U.S. versus Sean Combs. We are on day 25, not 26. The afternoon update. Tenny Garagos continued her cross of the special agent Penland, and that cross took the remainder of the afternoon along with the redirect. So we will hear from Brendan Paul, the last witness, I believe, for the government. There might be one possible summary witness, but I believe Brendan Paul tomorrow. And the government said they most likely will not rest until Friday morning now. They thought they were going to rest tomorrow, most likely Friday morning, but we'll see. So the cross-examination, like, this video will be fairly quick because, after lunch, we really only have an hour and a half of court left. Oh, and by the way, I want to point out that number, $46,000, was an actual charge in damages. I think it was for furniture or something. So I was right. That's crazy. Someone actually told me, another reporter said, oh, that came up before. I must have missed it because that was the first time that I had heard that. Okay, so essentially what Tenny did for the rest of the afternoon was she pulled up different text messages mainly between Cassie and Diddy during certain points in time that we had discussed previously on the chart during direct, to add more context, add more text messages than just maybe Cassie saying, hey, you really hurt me this time, etc., etc. We'd see a text message that said, ooh, I can't wait to be with you, or I love you so much, type of thing. A lot of explicit text messages from Cassie. I'm not gonna, I won't go there. I did write some of them down, but I won't go there. Let me see just some of the, I guess, I don't want to say like the highlights, but I think what the defense wanted to put out there was, like, for example, March 5th, the day of the beating, we saw a text from Cassie saying, I really want to do an FO, but I don't want to F myself up, type of thing. Saying that, she really wants to do it, but she was kind of worried because of her premiere, or that's what I took as her saying, I don't want to F myself up. And also there was text between Cassie and Diddy talking about, what should we do this weekend? This is October of 2012. And Cassie's like, let's do something fun. And Diddy's like, great. I got us tickets to Book of Mormon. Yay. And then they would say, miss you, this and that, loving text. But this was also the same time that there was the FO with the Punisher that we saw, or we heard video of. There was also a point where a juror was smiling, and this was seeing text messages between Diddy and Cassie, where Cassie sent a picture of herself looking cute in the mirror, and Diddy was like, "She's back," with a bunch of exclamations. And then after this text message, or this exchange, Diddy says, "What should we do tonight? I kind of want to FO, but he also said I don't want to F myself up. I need some guidance." And Cassie said, "Well, I've been feeling myself lately and I'm horny. So, and then she said, "But you do kind of stay in bed a lot." So again, we saw more text messages of Cassie seemingly wanting to do these things, consenting. And at one point, Diddy actually says, "Do I have permission to set up a room, like a hotel room?" And she says, yes. We also saw a text from Cassie where she said that she wished like she wasn't so high, because it sounded like they weren't using protection, or the escort didn't use protection, and the defense wanted to really highlight Diddy saying, "I'm so sorry, it's okay, we should be more careful next time." And Cassie said something about getting tested. And then Tenny would kind of say things like, "So during this time period, you only showed these text messages. You didn't show any of these text messages." And the other text message exchange that she would show would just be more favorable to Diddy, where he would seemingly be understanding and asking Cassie permission for things, etc. She also asked her if, they did any further research about whether or not the LAPD was mentioned during this time frame in the charts, except for the one text message with a screenshot from Carrie Morgan. And the special agent said no, it wasn't. What else? Yeah, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't anything crazy. It was pretty tedious, pretty slow, but there were some explicit messages. And then the redirect really ended, I thought, on these notes these texts to be sort of left in the jury's head, which was they re-showed us a message where Cassie said, "I'm someone's child. I'm not a rag doll. You can't get all high and do this to me. You're trying to show your power." And the last text message they read was Cassie saying, "You treat me like you're Ike Turner." So I was like, ooh. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. And then after court, the judge said they needed to have a private meeting, so they kicked everybody out, and most of the press left. I mean, there was like a 90% chance that maybe we'd be a 10% chance that we'd be called in there, but probably a 90% chance that we weren't going to know until tomorrow. So so tomorrow we will start with Brendan Paul and then see if there's any other juror issues. Thanks for listening. That was day 25.
All right, day 25. You heard it here first. What was it? $46,000 in damages that he paid one time at a hotel. Yeah, $46,000. That was kind of like the main thing. Another thing was like just kind of the receipts just keep proving that they're like paying and flying out people to do certain things, and I think that's what like the entire case is about, like the biggest RICO charges. So we'll see. Me personally, I think Puff is cooked. But the defense, hold on, is this but the defense keeps pointing out all these kind of text messages from Cassie showing that Cassie was with it, and so she ain't no victim. But we'll see which way the jury goes. But yeah, I'll continue following the trial, everything like that. Shout out to Lauren Collin as always for the content, for the recaps, daily recaps. She's been on it the whole time for the past 5 weeks. Day 25, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. She's been on it. So salute to her for all her hard work and things of that sort. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Everybody watching Flip, shout out to Flip for being in the chat tonight, everything like that. I appreciate it. And everybody else, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening, have a good night. Have a good day whenever you're watching this. I appreciate you all so much. My name is Rashad Milligan. This is the road to 5K subs. I will see you all again tomorrow because I am live each and every single day. Peace. Holla at ya. Shout out to Eric the Young God.
That's for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question. Brandon,
Yeah,
you
we
want one
can't
quick question?
ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.